we're restoring this 1989 Springer Narrowboat. After getting it inside the unit and stripping out the interior, we found it to be a little bit rusty. So we got that rust treated and re-protected because we had it spray foamed. With the inside looking like brand new, it's now time to look at the outside because this is also a little bit rusty. Before we tackle the outside, we've got one more little job to complete on the inside.
And that is replacing the angle iron that we cut out.
So I'm going to give them a clean first so the paint sticks to it because it's quite dirty.
To remove the grease and the dust, we just use a little bit of brake cleaner and a microfiber cloth.
That is all the angle iron cleaned. Now we're going to hit it with some anti-rust primer.
We use the aerosol on the inside corners and then we use the roller for the larger flat areas because we need to cover every single part to make sure that these bars last for many years to come.
That's one side painting. I'm going to flip them over and get the other side coated.
Next up on Operation Renovation is the holes, the old drain holes. We was going to keep the layout that we had, but now we're going to change it. So unfortunately, we have got to block these up with the spray foam in place. It is what it is. We know we do things a little bit out of order sometimes, but we always want to bring you content. So sometimes we just have to get it done and worry about the consequences later, just like having spray foam behind these repair panels.
So the foam's actually stayed. Is that going to be like it from the welding though?
I think so. I think because it's fire rated foam, it's held up like it's still perfect. So
that's crazy. Should we go? Let's go see what damage is done so far before the welding, and we'll show you afterwards. I don't know if you can see it, but it's done literally no damage so far, and it's not even burnt it.
That's the repair patch in position. However, I'm not actually welding this particular one because you remember in the last video when we went and met the guys from Artec, Dom and Joe have actually come to see us. Hi guys. Before we do any welding, we need to get ourselves a good grounding point. Even though Joe is going to be doing the welding on this particular hole, this is the one we're going to be using, and it is the MiG 181. So this is the one we went and practiced on at Artec, and it's pretty much Brad proof. We put in our metal thickness and our wire size, and we're ready to go. And when I say we're, I mean Joe. So Joe gets it tacked in place before putting in some full welds to seal up that old hole. Once it's fully welded, we get the angle grinder out and flatten all of that weld back down. After Joe had a go, I jumped on to the other holes, cutting them out and cleaning up the areas around it. And then we cut out our little repair pieces out of some new 5mm mild steel plate before tacking them in and getting them fully welded. That is the 3 obvious drains gone and they're capped in. Now, remember when we weld these up, these are way above the waterline, so we trust our handy dandy work. Now, we have got this one. We think it says Electrolux refrigerator or refrigeration. Why is there a fridge thing? I'm Googling it. We did not find it instantly, but after going through a few random things, look, Canal World, that's us. We're Canal World. Oh. I think this is for a very, very old gas fridge. I've got electric, well, we've got to have electric, so that is going to come off, I think.
What, are we going to take it off with a hammer?
Well, these look like flathead screws, and you know we just, here at the Home Improvement Channel, we just love flathead screws. Once we found those flatheads, we start knocking out all of the old paint. That felt like a snap. Yep. Out of the 4 screws that we had, only 4 of them snapped.
Oh, what Peter was doing when he cut this out, but that is not ideal.
Are you not impressed with his circle hole?
No, if you're cutting holes like this in your boat, stop it.
Once we discovered the poorly cut hole, we got on with removing what I can only guess is a guard for the old vent. So these are just some solid steel plate that seem to be protecting the old vent. So we got those ground off before cutting the hole square and putting in our new patch piece. That is all the holes in the side of our boat filled. But if you remember, we cut out all of the angle line from inside. Well, while Artec, the guys, Joe and Dom are here, we've decided that it may be best to remove all of the angle iron in the engine bay, and luckily they've brought a new tool to do the job. So this is Artec's plasma cutter, well, one of a few that they sell, and this thing is awesome. It cuts through this 5mm steel like butter. So I had a quick go. It takes a little bit of learning, but we got there in the end, and we got all of those bars removed. Now that Brad has primed our new angle iron, we're back in the boat because this is where it's going to be going. So you remember last video or the video before, who knows? We cut these angle irons out, so I've actually got to remove the last little sections. So now we can start marking up for the new stuff. The original steels, when they were installed, were not very good. They wasn't in very well and they wasn't straight at all. So now that we're replacing them, we're going to make sure everything is completely parallel and straight. I've marked the outside angle iron, so we've got one on the outside, one on the outside. What I'm going to do now is mark the thickness of it using a spare bit like this. And then to set our next one, we're actually going to measure a concrete block and make sure we've got enough space to get it in, because that is what we're going to be using for our new ballast. In our previous video, you would have seen us remove what can only be described as someone's old patio, and we didn't really want to put that back. That's the reason we're going for concrete blocks. We've put 2 blocks in just to show you our plan. Let us know if it's bad. So we've got some concrete blocks that are going to go like this. So imagine we've got one of these here and one here. And then we're also going to have a space through the middle to have them lengthways, so we can fill each bay as much as possible with these concrete blocks. And we've also got the weight of everything we took out, so we're going to let you know that in just a moment. This was meant to happen in the last episode, but this weighbridge was closed, but now it's open again. So James and Dan from the A-team took it onto the weighbridge with it full, emptied it off and re-weighed it. So for those of you who guessed, the actual weight of all that stuff was 1.7 tonne. And one person that did get it right was Rob. Now that we've got our weight, we can get back to marking out for our new angle irons. So once I'd marked it with the pen, I went through and put a small notch using my grinder, so once we'd cleaned the paint, we still had something to reference.
While Phil's finishing the grinding inside the boat, I would like you to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification to get regular videos on the boat series.
While Brad was rolling around having a good time with the camera, I carried on cleaning up all the spots for the new angle iron.
We're going to put all the angle iron inside the boat, freshly painted might I add, to mark out where the joists are.
This is a job you can do with a measuring tape, but for me, we're going to be a lot more accurate if we just lay them in place and mark them. New angle iron is in. We had a lot of comments about why did we paint before we installed our new angle iron. The reason is, with these in place, it would have been a nightmare to clean the bottom and repaint and get into every little nook and cranny like underneath here. So we thought in our heads it's better to have to repair the small sections at the end once all the new stuff is welded in. That way we've got full coverage and full protection on every single inch of this bilge or floor. Can't remember what part it is. That is the first 4 marked. I'm actually going to number these because I don't know how perfectly these are in, so these might differ slightly. By numbering the pieces, we know that what we've marked should fit right back where it was before. So once everything was marked up, we take the first 4 out and then set out the second 4 and do the exact same process.
It's really coming together now.
It really was. So we get those last 4 pieces removed.
We've marked everything. Now we have got a lot of cutting to do.
To cut our angle iron, we are using a grinder and a cutting disc. So some of them needed to be shortened down and the rest needed to be notched out.
Going through these like nothing. That's all of our cutting done. Now we're going to be using the flap disc, this one, to take off the paint around the areas where we need to weld.
Just like the floor, we thought it was better to paint everything and then just remove the small sections where we need to attach these to the boat.
I'm calling Sam. I nicked his joke on the last video. Sam, I need a new joke.
Bought a new blindfold last week. Can't see myself wearing it.
Oh, Sam, I didn't tell anyone the answer to the old joke. What was the Elvis Presley one?
Hold it to the mic.
Thank you very much.
That's enough jokes. Let's get back to the real work. That is all the prep done, ready to go in. One last step, and we are using a weld-through primer. The reason we're doing that is to try and make sure we haven't got any exposed metal when the job is finished.
You can't weld over paint, but you can weld over this special weld-through primer. So not only are we protecting the raw steel, we're still allowing us to be able to weld it.
We've also got to spray the inside of the boat, and that's when the 2 bits of metal connect. It's always protected.
Brad missed out on the perfect Spice Girls song, When 2 Become 1, but I'll let it slide, he must have been tired. So while he was in the boat, he sprayed up all of that steel that we exposed, just like I did on the pieces of metal we're going to be adding. And now everything is protected and ready to be reassembled.
The bars are prepped, the inside of the boat is prepped. I've done all the hard work. Why are you still I get so angry. Let's get him inside the boat.
This is where we find out if all of our marking and cutting is going to fit.
I feel a lot taller here, though.
Yes.
Yeah, all 4'9" of me.
We installed 8 pieces total of this angle iron, 4 rows. We are just replacing what we took out, so we've made it exactly how it was before, except a little less rusty. Everything is in place. Luckily for us, they fitted, so that's a touch. Now we're going to get our welder turned on and tack weld everything in place, making sure it's all perfectly straight. When we removed the original angle iron, it was very, very jinky, so nothing was straight. So this time we're going to make sure it's perfect. Even though they are angle iron, they still can be like. So remember when I marked it all out and I put those little angle grinder marks in. So now I'm tacked the first one and then I'll just bend them, tack it, bend them, tack it. So this whole lot, we'll show you when it's finished, will be like ping. And everyone knows that the technical term for ping is straight.
That's the welding complete on the long runs. I'm going to go round and protect them with a bit of primer.
Although we already primed these areas, now that we've welded them, we want to re-protect anything that is now exposed.
Today is an exciting day because we're going to be designing custom-made canopies for the boat, which means for you and me, that's like putting a porch on your house.
Why would we want a canopy, you may be asking? Well, in the UK, it's normally sunny, probably 3 days of the year. So the rest of the time, when it's absolutely hammering it down, this space becomes unusable. But with a canopy, it means we can use it whenever, and that includes driving at Mach 3 down the canals.
Boat canopies are quite a specialist thing. That is why we've got Steve from Titan Canopies.
And the first thing we're going to do today is scan the boat.
Scanning.
This scanner is a super awesome piece of equipment, and it's going to be scanning all of the edges of our boat so that the canopy, when it's made, is a perfect fit.
This is the great bit about it, watch this. The way this measuring device works is it's like a 360-degree QR code what measures at that point, and it comes from the head over there to here, and then wherever I point this, it takes a measurement.
So the awesome thing about this scanner is no matter where you put that ball, what angle it's in, it doesn't matter. It's always going to know exactly where it is in space. So Steve gets on with taking all of the crucial marks and points that he needs to, while the computer jots it out, and we end up with a 3D scan of our boat.
That side is done, and we're going to ask Steve if we can have a little go down the other end when we're measuring. Is that okay, Steve?
Yeah, cool.
If the front don't fit, we're sorry.
First job, we take the scanner down the other end of the boat and get it set up, ready for the next scan.
It won't work properly unless you do it. Go faster, Phil.
Once we had finished messing around, Steve then shows me how to use the tool, and I do the second part of the scanning. And it's quite a simple process once you know what you're doing.
I need an artist name so I can start signing my stuff off. And anyways, that will be available. Bidding will start at 100 million.
We have some damage on our handrail, so the bottoms are a little bit rusty. When I say a little bit, quite rusty. So we've bought ourselves some matching tube or pipe. What is this, tube or pipe? Let me know. And then we're going to clean up some paint and cut the bottoms off and repair them with this mild steel pipe. I've just started grinding this first one and it's actually in really good condition. So I'm just going to remove, what do you call these? Like little button things for the old canopy. So we don't need these, so I'm just going to pull that out and have a look at the next one. After a short struggle trying to remove the old clip or button, we can move around to the rest of the bars that are actually quite damaged and definitely need repairing. First job was to grind all of the paint off where we're going to be cutting, and then we make our cuts. This bar, when I've cut it, look, you see that gap? So it was obviously under a bit of tension, didn't realise. Problem is, normally, not a problem, I'll just weld it back here, but we've had this measured by Steve for our canopy. So if that's sprung up, our canopy might not fit. So I need to make sure that goes back down here. So I might take a little measurement and make sure it goes back where it was. We measure up the old piece, making sure we write it down, and then we can get on with cutting that damaged piece of bar out of the way. And with that out of the way, we can clean up the little piece that's left on the boat. That is the old one removed, and I've ground this flat, and I've also put a little bevel on here just so we can get a bit more welding there. So this, if we hadn't have measured up for the canopy, I would just mark and put back, but because of that bwang, we've ripped down 140, so that's what we're going to mark and cut off. Using our grinder, we cut off 140mm off of a new piece of pipe, put our bevels on, and then we tack it into place before welding it up, and that is the new piece installed. That is the new piece in, so I've welded it along the bottom as best I can. Remember, don't attack my welding, it's the best I can do. So the bottom's attached. This little section here where we've welded it, we're going to grind that and blend them together, but it's solid and there's no more rust. We then put on our flap disc and grind down that extra weld. We only need to do the bar because that's the only bit that needs to be nice and smooth. The bit that's on the boat, we can leave. We then get on with cutting out the rest of the damaged bits. This one was quite bad, so we got that out and put in a nice fresh piece, and there was also one more piece on the other side. Until we're ready to do any more work on the paint on the outside, because it's going to stay like this for a little while, we're going to put some primer on this just to try and prevent any rust while it's open, because new metal loves a bit of rust. That's most of our metal work repaired, which brings us over to our windows. Some of you may have guessed we're not using the originals, and that is because we are upgrading. That takes us to here, to Caldwell's Windows, because these guys do bespoke windows for boats, and they've also been highly recommended. Now that you've seen one of the worst transitions we've ever done, The guys at Caldwell Windows invited us down to show you behind the scenes at how all of your orders are actually made.
I don't know if you can hear me because it's quite loud in here, but this machine is for toughening the glass, and we need that with people like Brad around.
Not only did we get to go behind the scenes, they also let Brad touch some of the machines.
I'm a glass specialist.
No, you're not. So with the help of the guys that actually know what they're doing, Brad got to try out all of the machines, including this one here that tempers the glass. And then we got a little bit of training on how to put on some stickers. After we did that, Brad somehow conned his way into throwing a piece of glass onto a bench, and it was then cut by this big robot.
Oh my God. And this machine does other things.
The good thing about going behind the scenes is you get to see how much work actually goes in to that simple little window that you press buy on when you purchase it. There's a lot that goes into every single one of these, and remember, a lot of this is completely bespoke, so it's all handmade. They make it look like every single process is super easy, but these guys have been doing this for many years, and it takes a lot of skill.
Brad's been allowed to push some buttons, but I'm actually allowed to use grown-up tools, so this one's plugged in and everything. So I'm going to cut some of the aluminium track that makes up the windows that we're going to be having. Oh, it's like butter.
At this point, we was just rolling around trying to have a go on every single tool that they had in the factories, including this manual bender and this completely hydraulic bender, before looking at the polishing process and the sanding processes that go on in the factory. We then went round to one of the last steps, and that is the assembly of the units when they're made.
Here's one I made earlier.
We made it, he didn't.
With our tour coming to an end, we leave the guys to get on with making our windows, and we head back to the boat.
Another little job we've got to do is to remove our rudder and also the piece that steers it. What is this?
Tiller.
The tiller bit. I don't know if that's the tiller though. You let us know. That thing. So we think if we pull this bolt out, it should just... So let's find out.
Surprisingly, for how rusty most of this boat was, this bolt come out easily. So we got that out and then tried to remove the bar from the top.
And obviously remember, when you're doing this job, there's two bolts.
After discovering the second bolt, which I have no idea how we missed that, we got it removed, but it still wouldn't come out. So we decided to add on the tiller, or the top piece, bolted it in to try and break some of that rust free.
Timber!
And that was the rudder removed.
I didn't realise how long this thing was. Any giants local that need a walking stick, hit me up.
With all of that removed, we take our attention over to the propeller. And again, another super difficult job. So the pin holding the bolt in seemed to be super stuck, so we tried to remove it.
That is unfortunate.
We persisted and eventually we managed to get that locking pin out.
And it's just as easy as that.
With the pin out, we undo the bolt that holds on the propeller, and then comes the struggle of actually trying to remove it from the shaft. So we put the bolt onto here with a hammer so that we don't damage the threads, and then another struggle.
And just as easy as that, the propeller comes off.
The last of these easy tasks is to remove the shaft itself, and we take it into the engine bay.
And as easy as that, the stick thing comes off.
Remember guys, if you're interested in any of the companies featured in our videos, the links will always be in the description below.
That is all we've got time for in this video. Do not miss the next one, because I feel like that's the best one we've made so far. So if you hit the bell notification, you're going to get regular videos, and the subscribe. Phil's not here to say bye, so I'm going to say it for him. We'll see you later.
Back to work. Oh, fuck, myself right on the nose.